Muy buenas noches, everyone. I hope everybody's doing well, blessed, and enjoying family. As always, muchas gracias to everyone for everyone's words, wishes, prayers, as the love and support everyone shares and sends my way. From my heart, muchísimas gracias. Also, do please like, share, subscribe, and hype to the video to help the message get out a little better. Thank you. Well, everyone, on this one, I want to touch around Mosca and old man Darrel. And the question I've been asked, not going to say a lot, but somewhat, which is, did I ever go against the grain? Or more so in that sense, right? And the answer, just to say it, is yes. But allow me to put it into perspective, right? I'll give you an example. One day we did a bunch of things in Culiacan. We needed to split, you know, at least for a couple weeks till they sorted things out with government. We went to Mocorito. Once we're in Mocorito, and once they fixed everything in Culiacan, we had orders to, there were certain people that weren't lining up with things that we needed to cripple in the sense of going, you know, running up there, whoever try to buck up, mambo, and if not, just hog tie them and take everything, todo, guns and material, feria, and just cripple them that way, right? And keep in mind, this is just all camaradas. We're still just earning respect, trying to gain them prices, right? And again, it wasn't for us because, well, you guys get it. Nevertheless, we went back to Culiacan. When we hit Culiacan, there was a powwow. There was church, right? Amongst us, four other Billys, and the old man came down from Sonora, right, Darrel. And it was weird because nothing big had occurred, right? At least in Mexico, to have this individual leave his post, right? And nevertheless, in that conversation, we all put our 2 cents in of what's going on, right? Because some came from different states, and Sapo sent someone from Jalisco, Rudy, El Tres. Well, it was all the camaradas that were still with the causa in Mexico. And anyways, in this conversation, Daryl dropped the bomb, that we had already been hearing ever since Chato from Laverne, right? But it had to do with they were deciding. It had been decided that Mosca was going to get clipped, that he was done, you know. And this is like year something before it had happened, right? And anyways, they don't tell, we don't ask type of thing. We just to know, to hear and pay attention, right? So he starts he kept going off. I don't know. He had been discovered for at least the last couple years working with the Federicos. You know, to what extent, I don't know. But more so it was Mosca trying to politic with the feds, right? What I mean is crossing up other Pilis, smuggling them, giving them in a golden platter to the feds so that he could stay in control, right? He was just that individual, if you knew Mosca, He would do anything to keep control. But anyways, everything this was said and established, and we all said entendido. We went about the business like just as camaradas. The next morning, everybody, boom, to their corner, right? So it was left at that. I remember that day is I got sent personally with two pilis and about four camaradas to Wasabes, and my family were the main ones, right? And they told me straight out, Chino, ya sabes, tú, el territorio, va a llegar merca, and I want you to take everything from them. Keep in mind, we're not speaking about an ounce, couple keys, you know. Let me just put it to you like this. For you to have a Colombian even consider selling to you in Mexico, you have to get at least half a ton for them to deliver. That's the least they're going to deliver a soda to you in Mexico. If not, they won't mess with you. But this was way more. So our orders was real simple. When it came to them cats from Wasabes, it's go in. Anything that moves has to go. You know, it's not like the other place where you just smack them around and you know leave them hog tied. No, they all had to go. Period. Point blank. Whoever was there, and then we take the material, right? So we went out there and nothing went wrong. We went in pretty much from being there before. We kind of had it mapped out, right? So when they were moving that to a certain place, we hit, and definitely we hit big. We took back to Culiacan. We dealt with the people there, and that was it, right? A message was left over there on who it was coming from, you know, and oh, that's another reason why that individual is constantly trying to come in the ranch for me. Him, his brother-in-law, that, and a bunch of other things, right? But anyways, that happened. We got sent out to Veracruz. In Veracruz, it went all bad, quick. I mean, from the gate, we lost three people, and we got recalled back, right, to square things off because the individuals that were supposed to be there ready to help us, They had aligned themselves with the mother cats. They had jumped puddles, so just from the gate we got there, they knew exactly who we were, and it's how they got the best of us. And anyways, we went back to Culiacan, and D called another powwow, for everyone that was able to be there, right? We were there on wait, so and this other powwow, he came out from left field, straight from left field. He started saying like, look, nothing has been concreted about Mosca and this and that. Them two individuals under him that were in TJ, they got dealt with already. And, you know, he wants to work with us in the sense he wants whatever it was, right? If I remember correctly, it was 60, 60 pounds, you know, and he was working, I guess, tough with the woods because he wanted it of cheese, right? That requesón that makes you stay up for days, right? So after he finished talking, I'm honest with everyone. I stood up and I told him, like, mire, señor, con todo respeto, it ain't happening. You know, keep in mind the biggest supporters from the families giving us that respect at the moment, even helping D get to where he was at in Sonora was my family. And I told him it ain't happening. There ain't nothing here for Mosca, Dispensa, you know. And then he told me, look, Chino, I know what I said last time. Well, that's part of it. But if he's in everyone's mouth over there, as already speaking with the feds, that everybody's already moving their pieces to move on him, including yourself. You just cleared two homies under him here, you know, and now you want us to provide to him, you know. To me, it sounds fishy. So, okay, I'm going to have the people that are helping us from the end of the pipeline give us them 45, get them over there, knowing there's a chance it could be a setup. But not only that, we're giving them the pipeline that we're struggling to open. One, two, we're turning in this case, my family's people. And three, how you going to come one day and tell us he's a rat? There is nothing coming from him, for him. Anybody underneath them would to clip. And then everything we have been doing out here, you're telling us to put it in line for. You do know if it goes south and it tells, they're going to shut the doors on us again, period, point blank. They're going to consider like we set them up. So that little position you have in Sonora, you're going to get taken down from, and we're not going to have that respect no more. Straight up, they're going to start looking at us walking on eggshells. And, through everyone that we have lost trying to build this, and I'm not just talking about myself, all the homies that are lost, Even the Billies doing their thing, however they were doing it. Darrel holding it tough in Sonora, Evil in in Baja, amongst other names. You requesting of us to do something. At least in my case, it's never easy when you send us, for example, to Michoacan, to a bodega where we're outnumbered, to boogie on them. Then camping backpacks, take as much possible and take the mountains 3, 4 days without even knowing where we're at to help support the movement for the pipeline and the trust. So I know he might be offering you the feria for your pocket, but we're never going to see it, and that's cool. But at the same time, I just don't think it's fair for those fallen ones, you know, to have everything shut down just for 45 pounds or whatever it may be, 65. I forgot the exact number. Those are crumbs in what we're trying to do, right? The old man got hot, period, point blank. He got hot, and I knew it because later on he told me, let me talk to you. And then he told me, like, I understand your outlook and everything. I told him, look, I've had the most up respects for you since Scorpion Shoe. Out here, and your position in Sonora, it got it amplified for a better for you. Cause not to tap myself on the back, but one of the first things I did was for certain people to help you, as Evil when he was busted in Baja. So I've been doing everything correctly, I'm not a fish, especially out here in Mexico. I understand you want that feria because as I know, if everyone in the state is thinking that of Mosca, it's just a matter of time. And what if it's true? That's why there's separations, even though they don't want to admit it. State faction, Fed faction, and there is a Mexican faction, you know, and to worry about what we're doing out here. What if not only they shut that door on us, but what if the families get mad enough to skin us alive for setting them up? You know, you want to go out like what we're not, rats. Anyways, at the end of the day, Darrell would decide, he would not tell me you're right. He would say, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. And I straight told him, look, I ain't getting on my family on this. So I understand you have your pool in Sonora. So, you could push for it from over there. But honestly, I'll support whoever I need to support. But one of the ways I won't support is going to sit down with my uncle and tell him, hey, I need you to put 40, 60 of them things in LA County, for so and so. And can you do me a favor and give me prices and all this for what? So it comes back to us. you know, and I left it at that. Days later, keep in mind, this is before Mosca moved on. There were other things amongst this I'm speaking on that worked in the favor, right, against Mosca. And it came down from California, that the decision had been made. We knew 6 months or something in that sense before it happened, who were the two shooters. You know, one of them being a carnal from a mess, he contacted, he wanted to know, because just to let you guys know, a little thing that's not really out there, there is an MS member in Mexico. He's Mexican, but he's from MS. That is a Billy. You know, that, like I told you, there's two factions from MS. There's one that writes it tough with us. I heard a lot make fun of somebody that said MS-18. Don't know who it was. Well, let me just tell you, there is individuals claiming that down here. There ain't sureños at all. They despised us. And then there's that faction, 18th Street Sureños. That's what our word does. But anyways, I would eventually just be the middleman that plugged the Señor in Mexico to Cisco in the States. And yes, for those that want to know, Cisco's off the shelf. But anyways, on this one, I just want to more than anything share with you guys how I didn't exactly went against the green. I just didn't agree, and I didn't do what I was used to always doing, which was whatever a Billy wanted, let's boogie, get it done, whatever means necessary. You can't call someone a snitch. Keep in mind, this is a carnal calling another carnal a snitch, and then circle around and ask for us to throw everything on into the trash by selling them a couple pounds. We had a weekly pay, which were crumbs, and they didn't pay it. 100% they didn't pay it. We got paid by Sinaloa because we were pointers for them, and just like everybody else, 2,500 pesos or $120 maybe a week. Whatever they got, all Pilis over in Mexico were getting it, right? And with do so, that's how the structure is built. It ain't right, but that's what it is. And I wasn't against that. I was against minimizing those that had lost their life to build something, and it was so easy for a couple bucks for Darrel to throw it down the train. I might have been wrong, and Mosca was not speaking with the feds. He was solid, but hey, that was the talk around the camp, right? Why would you even risk it when even from them in the state, they would tell us from that linea up is us, from the linea down, that's you, you worry about you. Same with the feds. Once Sana went, Chino wasn't around no more. It just went all bad. There was a separation there. But anyways, I think I touched on this enough. I just want to share with you this story. As answer that person that asked me. Yes, I went. You could say against, you know, not to a sense to become a headache. It was just a way of I wasn't willing to minimize those that had lost their life or put my family in the cross, right? And basically set us back. If it was for a reason and we hit break wall with Sinaloa and they would end up picking us up, skinning us, whatever they did with us, cool, vámonos. That's what we were doing, right? We knew the consequences. But just so that Darrel wins $100 for every pound, as it just didn't make sense, right? That's why I always say, as a sureño, you have the right to ask. Your opinion should be heard. That's lost now. But anyways, on this one, then look, it's just that. Don't ever be afraid. As a camarada, you have the right to ask. Ask. Never question somebody, right? There's a difference. With this said, please stay true to yourself and loyal to loved ones.